In your last web project, I gave you a template to start from. We're going to work on creating your own structure that you'll do for every single website we do moving forward. As we start to build our cascading style sheets, you can actually copy the styles from one project to the next and tweak them, which will save you a lot of time. So I'm going to open up my Web 105 folder. And in here I have the demo site I did, intro, the review for the book review that I did. We're going to create a new folder and we're going to name it Lists, Links, with a hyphen between them because we're going to be working with multiple pages and lists and links. And this is going to be important to show you how pages link together. And then I'm going to hit enter. And we can either create the folders in here or we can create them in the integrated development environment, which for us is Visual Studio Code. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code and you can see the lists and links have appeared up there. I'm going to close these folders and I'm going to add the new folders that I need to the lists and links folder here. So I'm going to need a CSS folder. I'm going to need an index.html file. And I'm not really happy with the way this is showing things. I'm going to go back out to the Explorer here. I'm going to open up lists and links. And so I do have my CSS folder. I'm going to put in another new folder. And I'm going to have images. And I'm going to have one more new folder, which I'm going to call pages. And going forward, any of our multiple page sites will have your CSS, your images, and your pages folders. And then I do need an index.html, which I created but did not save, and that should be at the top level. I can also do that here. New. Yeah, it's easier to do that one than the other one. I could put in a folder, a file here, but it's easier to do that in the integrated development environments. So now I can expand my lists and links and everything is here. And I have my index, but I haven't saved it, which is why it's not appearing yet. So the index page needs to be at the top level. We're going to save it. And then in the CSS, it's not where I want it to be. So I need to move it up a level. And then in the CSS folder, I need to add a styles.css. And to make sure that they're connecting, I'll go ahead and hit enter. And I like to run this in split mode. So I'm going to turn off the project here and I'm going to turn on the split mode. And so I've got styles on the right hand side and index on the left. And this is the way that I like to work. And getting things connected is really important in testing. It's really important. So I am hitting exclamation tab. Now, if you haven't saved this as an HTML file, that won't work. So I'm going to, site is going to have 3 pages. And I'm going to call this home, lists, and links. And then in the body, I'm going to put in an H1 tag. And this is a lot about how the file structure works as much as it is the content and making things work together. Then the styles, I'm going to teach you the way that I like to do things. And I work with divs, breaking things into logical divisions. And most pages are going to have a header, a main section, and a footer. And these are named divs. And I like to typically put things into something I call a container, which we're going to do with a class. So first I'm going to put in my body. And in the body section, I usually do a color. I'm going to make a dark background. And I'm going to choose dark magenta. And I'm actually not completely in love with that. So I'm going to go and pick a specific color there. And it's giving it to me in red, green, blue, RGB format. And then I'm going to pick a font size. And this is setting the base font size for the page. And I'm going to set it to 16 pixels. And we can always play with that if we don't love it. And I'm going to make the default font Arial Helvetica. Oh, I want this to be font family. Then it'll give me choices. Font family. And this is my typical fonts that are very, very easy to read. And this is typically where I start everything. So that just is giving me body. Now I could put the color in here, but I don't actually like to just work in the body. I typically like to have a container. And I actually call it container. This dot in front of it makes it a class. And so I'm going to set the container to a max width 1080px. And you can play with different sizes, but that's a pretty standard place to start. And then we can set the padding to 10px, and I'll show you what that means in a second. I'm going to put the border 2px, 2 pixels, solid, gold in color. And I do this sometimes just to show you where things are at. I often don't actually put a border on the containers because I don't usually like the way it looks, but I wanted you to see where things are transitioning. And then I'm going to do a margin 10px auto, and this is going to center it. And we want to make sure that these two pages are talking to each other. So I'm going to do a file, save all, or Control S, just file save this one. And now I've got to make this page link to this one. And we like to have an external style sheet for two reasons. Number one, if you have multiple pages, you can style an infinite number of pages one style sheet that they all point to. Two, it makes it easier to edit in the browser, which is my favorite way to edit styles once I've got the base one set up. But I have to link to this, and I'm going to use M, and I'm going to type link, and I'm going to hit tab. And so it's saying that the relationship here to the other page is that it's a style sheet. And then I have to put in the folder, which we named CSS, and then I pick styles.css. And that's going to link them together. So for the container, I'm going to make the color of the container, or the background, ivory. And I'm going to make the color, which is the font color, gray. And since I don't like that shade of gray, I can click in here and if I get it right, it'll let me pick an actual color here, and that's what I want to do. Okay, so that gives me a start, and I've got my home page here, and I can see that these are both set up. I'm going to test this again, file, save all. And I'm going to open up my File Explorer, and I can open in other browsers. I really like to work with Chrome. Okay, this is connected. It has changed my background color, and homepage is the default color. What you're not seeing is the container, because I created it in my style sheet, but I didn't implement it in my main page. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to add that. So in the body section, I'm going to add a container, which is a class name for a div. So if I put in dot container, and the dot is what represents that it is a class named container, and I hit tab, you'll see that I get a class with the name of container. And I can put things inside of it. I'm going to grab the H1 tag, and in here I'm going to put a header. Put that in there, and I'm also going to put a nav. And these are standard semantic sections that will pretty much go in every web page. We'll typically have a header, we'll typically have main, and we'll typically have a footer. And this is a special symbol for copyright. And so I've got that in here and saved. Now I can save it, Control S, and I can go back out to Chrome. And whenever you make changes, you have to refresh. Okay, so you can see that I have my main content here. It's not set up with the styles the way that I want, but at least I can see that they're working. And I actually like to do a lot of my styling from in here once I get to the point where I'm tweaking. So I'm going to get a little bit further in my basic styles. And so we're going to put in links and lists. So I'm going to have multiple pages in my nav section. It's going to be 3 pages. And again, they're not going to be content heavy. This is just showing you how they connect. So we're going to have 3 links. And you put in a link with an A. That's your anchor. That's the text we put in. And I'm going to, in that link, I'm going to put in the different sections that I want to link to. I can put in 3 at the same time by doing A times 3 and hitting tab, and that gives me 3 links. And so I'm going to set up the way my pages are going to be set up. So I'm going to have index.html, and that's the address of the page. And then I'm going to name it home, and then I'm going to have lists.html, and I'm going to name it lists, and I'm going to have links.html, and I'm going to name that links. And those will actually show up on the page. And I can go back and I can test this again. And this looks pretty good. I'd like to do some styling here, but this gives me what I need for the multiple pages. Now each of the pages are going to have this basic setup. So now I can go back into my page here. And I'm going to make sure I have this index.html page selected, and I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to make sure it's in Pages, and I'm actually going to cancel this because this should be in Pages. So it's pages/lists.html, HTML, and pages/links.html. Okay, so this is teaching a little bit about the file structure and why it's important. So now I can do a file. I'm going to save it first, index.html. I'm going to do File, Save As, and here's where I go into the pages. And I'm going to name it lists.html. And I'm going to do a file, and now we're editing the lists one. You can see that's changed up here. And I'm going to do a File, Save As. I'm going to call it links.html. Okay, this is going to sort of work, and I'm going to show you what works and what doesn't. So I can go back out. I'm actually going to change the names on the different pages. So this is going to be the links page. We will also change that here at the heading or in the title. We'll call it links. And then I have to open up the lists page. And I'm going to make that say lists. And I'm going to make the title say lists. And that looks good. Now, when I'm trying to link back to the home page, this won't work. I'm actually going to have to go up a level, and it's really important to know how to do that. So to go up a level, it's a ... and that takes me up to the primary level. It's going to go to the index.html. So I need to do that in the list page, and in the links page, I also need to do a ... which makes it go up a level. Now I can do File, Save. And I really want to save everything, so I'm going to click on each one, Control S, and index should be saved, Control S. Then I can go out to Chrome, I can refresh it, nothing's going to look different here. But now if I click on lists, it worked, but it broke the link to my style page, which is okay. And that doesn't work because it's at a different level. All right. So I have to go back and I have to fix those. So we're going to go in here, and for my style sheet, since I'm in the index page, I'm going to have to do a ... actually that one should work. I'm in the index page. This one should be working perfectly everywhere. I'm going to close that. So lists has to go up before it goes down. So I have to take it up to the top level, ... then it goes to CSS. And here, since I'm in the lists and links page and they're at the same level, I don't need the pages because I'm already at that level for these. So I can save that. And then I can go look at my links.html page. And again, I'm going to get rid of those. And I'm going to make sure that I'm linking to the correct level. So I need ... and we'll make sure everything's working. So I'm going to come out to, and I did save everything. So I'm going to come out here, I'm going to refresh. And so my home page, lists, links, and work it the other way. Everything's working. So from here, we can create each of the pages. I want you to get this far, and then you can go on to the next video.